So we'll also, so read me as the big one.
Yeah, I think that's what we can cover today.
Okay. So we'll also, okay. All right. Could you hear me?
For a second, yeah.
Oh, huh.
The,
Okay.
the echo, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
All
have
right.
to do
Here,
the same thing.
mute it.
Yeah, open up YouTube and then close YouTube, but I keep the comments open. I think if anybody's weighing in.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Cory, this is session 9, and we talked last week and we made the decision that we're going to V1 this with a couple changes and call it good for now and move on to another project. Let it sit and simmer a little bit. So any thoughts that you had based on last week or anything else?
Yeah, I guess I'm glad that we're doing this. Like and if for the 6 people watching, um, but in historically this will be significant. This is where we uh, figured out how to make our millions, right? Um,
Right.
but I have had a lot of success, not in a project sense, in the past of letting things simmer. And so I definitely like, because we could keep banging away at Crop Express, adding more features, and there's still a few things that I want to add. Like I definitely want to put a bow on it. Um, and I definitely think that it's something for us to talk about, promote. We'll send copies to blogs. Like let's still have some of those conversations that you talked about. Um, as much because I want to talk to those people. I think it'd be fun. Um, but I also think that it takes the pressure off of us, like, you know, having this thing and going, okay, what's happening with it today? When sometimes you just honestly need some time to go by, and some people to mess with it, and some people to mess with it enough to say, oh man, I wish it did this, and then still use it for 2 more days before they finally do send us an email that's like, okay, hey, I've been thinking about this for a couple of days. Boy, I wish it did this. Um, just because we're thinking a lot about it doesn't mean anybody else is.
Yeah. And I think there's two things when you're saying that came to mind is the get something out, sit on it a bit, let it just kind of cook or just kind of be. I
Yeah.
think it's interesting. And then is great for this. And then second is I forgot what I was going to say. But the second is we have the feedback loop within the plugin. So, we never know. Might be something I think we felt like there was something better to chase that we discovered through this, which I look at product as discovery, especially our product. When you got a working product and you're just adding things, that's way easier. Working product meaning people are paying money for it in my mind. We already know it's functional and works. But yeah, and I think, just to talk about our decision for a second, we saw more opportunity on another direction that we discovered something you'd been working on in parallel. We're not ready to talk about that just yet because we want to get some things going. But I think that's part of the product trail is, discovery. What's over the next mountain? And I don't know about you, but I got to put multiple things in the water to see what actually hits. And I feel like you and I built enough of a case for the other thing that is really interesting. It seems like there's something there. So coming back to the cycle of like, okay, we like this. We think this would be good. Other people, would help. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that for a second, but I did want to at least unpack a little bit of our decision about, calling V1 with a couple of these tweaks, good and all that, and say it's always a Safari.
Yes. Yeah, and it's an ongoing conversation, I think, is the other good metaphor. It's literal for in our case, but it's also a good metaphor that as you talk, you uncover more things. You go, oh, I didn't think about this, and it's um, so. I guess the analogy too is, concepts have to simmer, ideas have to simmer. The cadence of you and I chatting once a week, occasionally a little bit more, but uh, gives us a chance to go, okay, so this happened this week, or this new other thing came out this week, or this new, um, product caught my eye that isn't related, but it sparked an idea, dot, dot, dot. Like it's, trying to get it all done, hackathon style is a neat exercise, but I don't think it's the true arc of most products journeys. So, um, but I definitely, oh, the one thing I didn't tell you about is I did get my first email from crop.express, the website, of somebody asking specifically, uh, I have a client website, they need the image to be exactly these pixel proportions, so not even an aspect ratio. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think that I want to think about, again, as we're talking about sort of putting a bow on V1, uh, accounting for that situation. And then to me, that kind of, again, we've completed a uh, product. It solves the problem. It solves the problem everywhere that we think that it matters. It solves the problem for all of the scenarios that we currently know about. And this is where, like you said, we're waiting for feedback. We're waiting for people to say, oh, hey, aspect ratio isn't really what I need. What I need is image or pixel size. Which technically can be done in I had added min and max pixel stuff, but like I think, kind of like your feedback last week, like this settings page is the advanced settings, or it feels, it feels like a 200 level class or whatever. And so, looking at simplifying that, but then, yeah, letting it ride. And at that point, like I said, I'm really excited about getting it, actually installing it onto my clients' websites and going, all right, guinea pigs, dance. You now have to use my plugin. But even this week, it came up again where one of my clients was like, you know, trying to get an image onto the site correctly, and I had to walk her through some stuff. It's like, don't mention the plugin yet. Don't mention the plugin yet. But as soon as I introduce it and walk them through it, I think it'll solve problems for them.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole conversation, and this relates to Crop Express now, made me think of this, but also kudos for like you saw an opportunity there with your client. Like, so that's like the validation of, is this a valuable thing?
Mm-hmm.
You've seen this a bunch of times, but I wanted to share for anybody that's listening later is I always come back to this. So it seems like I've majored in the pains, specifically with utility software in the past. The thing that's really always compelling to me is gains. And I know you worked at Optimonster at one point, and I go, that was my classic example. We did utility things at iThemes, and you look at the gain, you look at like an e-commerce site or a marketing software or something like that. And it's like, I haven't really camped out, had a product, I don't think, that camps out in the gain side. Yep. But I think we've been doing this work too, is coming back to who is our customer for this, whether it's ourselves for sure. And then we're developing out the profile for there. Like, could this be something? That's something when we start and talk about the next project publicly, so that we can, that's something I want to do better is go, okay, let's identify the person that might have this problem or frustration or issue. This is a whole concept I'm trying to get to. What's the amount of pain somebody goes, I'll pay for it? What's the amount of gain somebody goes, I'll pay for it?
Yep.
that's some of my learning as I've gone, okay, like when we created Backup Buddy, the developer goes, "Hey, I think WordPress needs a holistic backup solution." And I was like, I just go, yeah, because 100% theoretical market at that time. So it's pretty easy. I think WordPress has got enough things out there. It's interesting from a competitive standpoint is where's that ideal place? So I don't know. I want to throw some of that up to you and see if you had any comments. You always have something really help changes my perspective a little bit. But it's like this balance. This is a formula for how products and services, different things get out. And then, nailing that customer, they go, oh man, that would, when you get that feeling of like, oh, this would help me so much. That's the magic right there.
Yeah, and I'm definitely, I've also had some similar thoughts in that it is I think a slightly different way of thinking about product, right? And the looking for pain is a very popular 100 level, I guess. Apparently I'm making college analogies today. But like you look at Amy Hoy, Justin Jackson, Rob Walling, like the startup thought leaders, who put out a lot of great content and have done for decades, arguably. Um, the thinking for a long time has been, okay, you are an aspiring, probably solopreneur. You are a entrepreneur, and I don't mean that negatively, but you are an aspiring, you have an entrepreneurial spirit without experience, right? So you want to start your entrepreneur journey, um, and a very popular formula to start with, because honestly, I think I know it's generally more reliable as a beginner, is pain. And so there's all these ideas about like, okay, you get on a forum for fishermen where all the fishermen are talking, and you kind of listen to their conversations, and when they keep talking about like, boy, at dawn I wish I had, a certain kind of light, and that's where you go, aha, that's a pain. Now I can go try to solve it, which is very different from, now I'm blanking on the name, but there was a product that came out years ago, and it just popped up on my radar again. Oh, Prezi, Prezi, I think, right?
Yeah, I remember
That
Prezi.
that was 100% a solution looking for a problem. It was a really neat I mean, we still have the slides paradigm, the PowerPoint, Google presentation paradigm, rectangle, rectangle, rectangle. And Prezi had this really neat software that they built online, which was very impressive at the time, because again, it was probably 10 years ago. But where it was kind of like an interactive mind map. And so you had a point that had something, a concept off of it, and you'd zoom around, you'd sort of fly around this presentation. And it was extremely novel, but I think every person built one presentation in it and was like, this is neat, but it's very clear that I'm using this software because it does one thing. Um, and they did a really good job, I think, of marketing, of finding a use for this and marketing it. But they couldn't become the presentation standard that they'd hoped to, because they changed. It was too specific, you know. Um, and that's always the fear. It's definitely more fun sometimes. And I've definitely built a lot of products that were a concept. It was like, oh, I think I have a different way of approaching, project management, to-do list, time tracking, the standard paradigms, but like, instead of it being a vertical list, it's horizontal, or whatever. Um, and I think that you, it's then tough, because if you're on one end of the spectrum, you can only present games like Prezi, where it's I hate to use the word gimmick, but where it's again a solution looking for a problem, that's dangerous. That's very, very difficult to change a paradigm. Like they did not change the way all presentations are look. They couldn't. And then on the other end of the spectrum, what we've talking about is 100% solving for a pain. It's like fishermen need a flashlight at dawn. Build the flashlight. You're done. And so what we start talking about is somewhere in the middle. And again, I think just a different way of thinking. It's going to be more challenging for you marketing it, more challenging for both of us or anybody to talk about it, if it isn't a problem that people are already trying to solve. Um, and I think what we're, you know, I do anticipate landing somewhere in the middle. Like Crop Express, I think is a good example of it's definitely a pain, but people are solving it by going elsewhere. They're going to Photoshop, they're going to Crop.Express, and we're kind of bringing it to them. Um, and so I think that I hope to still kind of do some of that stuff, but then also, maybe introduce concepts that WordPress doesn't currently have, paradigms that WordPress doesn't currently uh, have its arms around. And so I'm kind of excited for all that. It's also, I think, it being more on that spectrum, it's more creative, it's more fun for us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like we're using that whole thing is build something for yourself, and we're using problems we see for ourselves,
yeah.
using the new thing we're talking about, using WordPress, post status and your clients and things. And it makes me think like the gain pain conversation on that. When we show that, we can, like what I wrote down when we just a minute ago was, in the classic consulting Bible, I think it's Alan Weiss. He talks about the job of a consultant is to improve the client's condition in some way. And I've been doing a lot of thoughts about consulting because I've tried it a couple of times and have failed miserably at it. But I'm still trying. But from that consulting thing, if you think about that just for a second, you're like, how do I help improve the client's condition, or in this case, our potential customer's condition? And I think we've done a lot of that work in Crop Express, is
Precisely
thinking about the outcome they're wanting. And I'll save the rest for our next conversation. But so anything you learned, I know we still need to do the remeet, but anything takeaways from what we've done so far? Other takeaways?
To be honest, I do think that we have. I'm thinking out loud here, so I reserve the right to take all of this back. But at least some of the process that we're have gone through, is the same, falls in the same trap, in that I do think that we know there's a problem. We've had the problem. We don't like how cropping and inserting images into WordPress currently works. We got excited and said, okay, there's something here. We both felt it in our gut. But then as we got into it, there's definitely been, it's not like I expect, a million installs overnight. But there's something, I don't know what we could have done differently, but I haven't felt the spark didn't ignite, I guess, is what I would say. It's like there's something here. We've built a nice little utility. It almost feels like we've kind of, we saw a sparkle of something on the ground. We started digging. There might have been a couple of other glimmers of like, oh, there's maybe a hint of gold. It kept us digging, but I kind of feel like we've reached a point where we've we've dug around, we've dug up all the earth around what we thought might have been a vein of gold and said, okay, yeah, no, I guess there's nothing here. And not that that isn't part of the process. I don't know what we could have done differently.
Yeah.
I only question if there was a way to have arrived there sooner. Um,
Mm,
and again, none of this is to say that I don't think that what we've created has value. Um, and we kept sort of going, okay, well, we keep having really good high level conversations, which again has led to other ideas. And so that's not invaluable. But we were sort of like, take a step forward and see, take a step forward and see. And now that we're ready to kind of put a bow on version 1, it's like, yeah, this might be it, which is okay. But it's definitely a little hard to accept. Do you know what I mean? Like, just the sunk cost fallacy or whatever it is, like
yeah.
we've put in time and effort and so much thinking that we part of me still really wants it to be something more than what maybe it is, you know.
I
And
know.
this conversation may be just um as premature as what I'm alluding to, right? Of like, early on, we were very optimistic that we would find something bigger down the road. Anyway, so
I have a,
that
I, on that thought, I have a thought for when we go to the next conversation.
hmm.
How we could maybe approach that even better.
But I guess what I do like is uh, the meta of you and I recording all of these conversations, right? I think, like, I remember one of a mental image, but a conversation, a memory that often pops into my head is when I still worked at WeWork. Yes, the one that's in the documentary. You can see my bald spot in the back of some of the shots, where they talk about, the demise of WeWork. So yeah, I'm WeWork famous. But at the time, I sat at a table with 5 other entrepreneurs, everybody pursuing different projects, and it was great because it was an instant mastermind. And very frequently we would just say, hey, could I, buy you lunch and and pick your brain about such and such. And I remember a buddy of mine, Joel, coming to a real crossroads in product and in business. And again, him saying, hey, could we take a walk? And we're like, vexed about this. And we were uh, in Soho, and we walked over to the river, and just like standing at the railing and looking at what would it have been, the Hudson River, and looking over to New Jersey, and him talking. And there was this moment of me just feeling very, this is feeling very grown up and very like we were having important conversations. And um, and it felt great that I hopefully was helping him work through some problems and stuff. But anyway, uh, the value in that experience, that camaraderie, and then ultimately, like, there were other conversations where he helped me just as much as maybe I helped him. Um, but I'm hoping that at a high level, even though you and I, like, session 7, whatever this is, we are where we are. It is or it isn't where we expect it to be. We are going to continue, but I'm hoping that people watching this are having some of that same, like, oh, other people have these thoughts, or go around in these circles, or ramble to themselves just like I do.
No, I think so many times I'm not just, I don't wake up born with a gift of knowing what the products are. I've got to figure it out,
Well,
and
then why
having
am I
somebody
working
else.
with you, man?
I
I
know
was counting on $1 million idea overnight.
the magic. Um, and so I've done a lot of thinking about products for the last 15 years, obviously, and gone,
Nice.
okay, you get, so I think we're pulling together some components, comparing experiences too, and then plowing a new head forward. So yeah, I mean, the camaraderie has been amazing. I do it just for that. But second is, I think we're building some experience about what products work, what products don't. I think there's a tendency for me is to think people do have magic and just know it. But there's a lot of things that go into that. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of talk professionally about this particular topic. But there's a reason why big companies buy smaller companies, because they found the magic and they want to pull it in, kind of thing. At least
Well,
that's
and
how I think about it in my humility.
well, and so in the last few years, have learned to make things around my house. My carpentry skills are getting better. I'm not good, but I have now, built a big roof over my patio. I've built shelves. I've, you know, um, helped my father-in-law fix his roof, stuff like that. Um, and I've definitely had the experience where I'm working generally with people who know what they're doing, but not always. I can always jump on YouTube and Google things, but I've definitely felt so a little insight to me, like years and years ago, I was an artistic genius, in my own mind. Absolutely. Like I was a musician. I still am. I was starting to build product. I still do. But at the time, I was utterly convinced that I'm very smart and I can figure out magic. Um, and an aspect of turning middle aged or whatever it is like I'm just another human. And yes, I might do some amazing things, but most humans, in one sense or another, do some amazing things. Um, but everybody has to start from somewhere, and a lot of the times it's a group of people. And so, going back to like learning how to repair, or I got to be I was helped a bunch of people literally build a house in a day, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And the the in the crew, it was a dad and his sons, all work construction, all build houses, so they know how to literally knock together a house in a day. And I had no idea how to knock together a house in a day. Um, and so they are amazing at what they do now from experience, and they are smart people. And then that gets shared with the rest of us. There's this trickle down, and I'm not saying I could go build a house in a day, but at least I have some sense of how it is done. And so this summer, when I build a shed, I might be able to build a shed with a couple of other people in a couple of days. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's definitely this, we always talk about the Steve Jobs or the whoever, the artistic geniuses, um, the people who can snap their fingers and creativity comes out, and then the rest of us have to work at it, and that's okay. And it's a little bit of luck, and it's a little bit of timing, and it's a little bit of the people around you, and it's a little bit of the industry you're in, and then it's the practice that you've done. And you and I have both been thinking about product for 15 years or whatever it is. And so I'm in San Francisco this week. So I'm walking around in San Francisco thinking about the amount of, tech and whatnot that's here. But what it really comes down to is, like, I was driving on the highway last night, judging harshly all of the ridiculous billboards, because I'm like, who is Twilio think they're advertising to? Or who else did we see? Monday.com. And I'm not necessarily picking on their billboards, they're fine, but it's like, okay, this isn't that's most of these products I don't think are attributable to one person's genius. These are products that were built by teams and companies that were built up over time. And then there's a marketing team. And now I'm questioning some of the marketing decisions, but I'm like, who are they marketing to? And how does that differ from like the online billboards, ads, and such that I'm seeing when I'm in New Hampshire versus in I'm essentially in Silicon Valley, so it's humbling, right? I mean, they're spending tens of thousands on billboards that I think are not very good. But at the same time, they've arrived there over time, and did it start with conversations like this? Did it, who was the team involved, who were the people involved, what were their experience. I think that's all fascinating. I wish most companies would. There was just a thread on Hacker News. Was it Hacker News or Reddit? Like, what are your favorite postmortems? And it's I I like the people on that thread were wishing that there were more write-ups of there's probably a little bit of morbid curiosity, but also like, what are the lessons we can learn? But also a lot of it's just the stories are fascinating. There's a reason why there's 101 podcasts interviewing founders, many of whom haven't reached the success that most of us would want, themselves included. But the stories are fascinating, you know.
Yeah. I read the Founders at Work book and it was really cool, but and a lot of it is serendipity.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was going to use a band analogy because of your music background and just go like, how does, I know some musicians and I'm like, one pretty dang popular in the 90s, 80s and 90s, and spent some time with them. Really great guy. But I was like, I always want to go, how did he's played with his band for, a long time and they've had success together. And it's like, how does that come together is always the magic for me. And then how do they make this great music that a lot of the best bands I've heard, they need, like Dave Matthews was the continual one. You're like, man, great voice. But I've also heard like he wouldn't be Dave Matthews and Dave Matthews Band without all the incredible musicians around him. He happens to get the namesake
and connections he had and stuff like that. Yeah.
I was very much iThemes, by the way. I got way more credit and I can't sing. So
well, but yeah, and I think that thank you. I think you've in some ways summarized what my rambling was trying to get at is it's everything is the sum of its parts, right? And so it's like there was a point where I thought that I would snap my fingers, and not that I didn't work really really hard, but I now understand that it's so much more is the building blocks, the sum of the building blocks, and the culmination of things. And like a lot of bands, I love. In fact, I'm rereading Elton John's book. Great read, by the way. I'm not a fan of Elton John. When I read it the first time, I went back and literally tried to listen to some of his music, and I couldn't get through most of it. It's just so not to my taste. I'm wrong. There's no question that I am wrong. Literally billions of people love his music, and I don't. So I am wrong here. But the book is really fun, well written, self-effacing, self-deprecating, and I'm a music history nerd, but it's the how things came about, and he definitely is magical musically, but he what's the past tense of grounded. He worked really really hard for a really long time and with a lot of people, and people came and went and stuff like that, so at some point you and I are going to reach a point where you're going to fire me and hire somebody better and keep going with the band, and I will be the Pete Best, the long lost original drummer of the Beatles, who will die in obscurity. And I
don't think so, because you forget I don't know how to sing, and it's not going to be as fun at all without the drums and guitar solo and everything you've done. So,
but anyway, why don't you share your screen if you have the README? I feel like the brainstorming we did last time worked well. Like you were typing while we were both chatting, if that works.
Yep. So we're here.
Nice. Oh, so there's an edit option. That's cool. Bottom left, there's a button that says edit. Can we make our changes right in? Cool.
You know what? We'll want to go back when we do the the new brand that we talked about, we'll want to come
Mhm.
back and put the links here.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
So I go to WordPress.org/plugins. And I search for Chrome. And I'm seeing what else comes up. And like there's a, image aspect ratio, custom fields for ACF, crop and image as keywords. I also heard from, I did a call with Matt Cromwell and I hate to say it, but Leslie Pizza, because I can never remember her last name, and I think she actually, like a lot of people, call her Leslie Pizza. But they were helping me review one of my other plugins and said that we can actually have up to 12 keywords. Just the first, I think, 5 show up. So I was actually misinformed that, or I had the wrong knowledge that I thought we could only have a few keywords. So I think on that first screen, plugin, maybe. Yeah, I saw tags. So like I'm wondering if, I mean, this is all always speculation, but is it better to have image crop, or is it better to just have crop? To me, you don't crop anything that isn't an image. So image crop might be redundant. Cropping is good though.
So I had crop and cropping since we can add more tags. That's good knowledge.
Right. In WordPress, featured images are often called thumbnails. Media library. Now that we have that, is probably, if people are looking for ways that they are manipulating images in the media library, maybe they search for media library. I can't imagine that people are looking for the term aspect ratio. More likely they're looking for, image size, right? Like we had the guy message me and say, I need all images need to ultimately be 700 by 500 or whatever it was, like image size. So anyway, I feel like that flushes it out a lot more. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's really good base level things we got to just check the box for. Do I push save or update code? I'm always the control S, command S, command S.
Right. I probably save. I imagine that save actually does both. I just remember that save took a long time.
Okay. Okay. I put cropping here and I put precise. I took out featured images, but is there anything else you see that we should probably, like a list of features maybe?
So up to 150 characters. I'm still looking at the description first. It seems like, do you have something that'll tell us how many characters we're using there? Go stick it in a fake tweet or something. So I guess they just give you a counter.
Oop.
I think like so I do I think we could just say crop images in WordPress easier. Is that a sentence?
It's awesome. I think that's really good.
WordPress easily. But I guess my point is we're not using 150 characters. Let's add more words. Um, in WordPress easier dash featured image media library. It's a little bit of keyword stuffing.
I mean, we have the block too.
Mm-hmm. Crop images in WordPress. Uh, Say Gutenberg block. Like image cropper Gutenberg block. I just always feel like we need. I'm not convinced that people only like truly think of it as just the block editor. You know what I mean? Yeah, great. Yeah, that's great.
You probably have all these memorized, but I was going to go back into the plugin. So
Oh,
we
that's
have, go ahead.
just that we can keyword stuff the title too. So going back to the plugin tab, crop express dash crop express for featured images or I'm just trying to think of what the keywords might be. Like, I don't think we need WordPress.
Yeah, I was trying to say something like crop express is it keeps it native, I guess. Like you don't have to go outside of WordPress. There's a better term for that, I'm sure.
Right, but I guess this is more like this is more search rankings. So I literally think repeating Crop Express for featured images, for media library, for Gutenberg block. Um, yeah, I think that's to me that's what the purpose would be. It doesn't hurt, like those are human readable words, but I do think it helps the SEO.
Okay. And I put crop or block. I don't know how long this can be.
Right. I mean, short pixels is pretty freaking
Say what?
long. I'm comparing other ones in the repo, and like short pixel image optimizer dash optimize image is comma convert WebP and AVIF. Like they're the title of theirs is 66 characters. So I feel like we've got room to play with. Nice. The sentence above, you can take out featured images. So Crop Express speeds up your content workflow, giving you uniform images for your blog posts. I think you can take out featured because we now have expanded. But I still love this intro. So even the title at the top, make cropping featured images, you can take out featured. So making.
What you meant right here.
Yeah. And again, I think that could be similar to the short description. So rather than make cropping images, we could just say crop images. Easier. Yep. I think it's bad English, but I think it gets the point across. But I think, yeah, we define the problem, we define the high level solution well, and then talk about features, which is the formula you're kind of supposed to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And I would even add another one below that first one you just said. Say something like round avatar images or something like that. Like shapes is shapes, and down the road we can add stars and rainbows and unicorns if we want. But I still think that it's pretty amazing that you can crop a circle. Yeah, there you go. Love it.
And the set sizing defaults give, I don't know if guardrails communicates cross cultures, but to me, it's like put those bowling bumpers on your client
Right.
from like doing crappy stuff. So giving some, you're kind of making it easier on your client by giving them some base. You're actually taking out the possibility of error on the client you deliver work for by giving them some. So keep them
prevent uploading the wrong image. Like it's really wrong size and shape image, but that's really wordy. Huge images that slow down your site. There you go. Nice. Yeah. You could also another new under the second item is media library.
just throwing things out, just get us going.
Absolutely. Yeah, at this point, we've got the 3 integration points: featured images, media library, and Gutenberg block. And then we've got settings.
Settings. Got the block. You said, I'm sorry, featured image, media image, and then the standalone block. Okay. I'm just testing that. I don't know if it
Yep.
works. I almost feel like putting this above here. And then, new, like the first one is the block.
Yep.
That's cool. It's in post. Crop images by ratio sizes, set image. Rename it. Let's see. I almost feel like this needs to be. I don't know. I don't want to nitpick it too much. Image sizing. Okay. Anything I missed?
No, I think this is a great next version.
Okay. Save it.
Mhm.
Can you do custom ratios?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We already said that. Let's see. So it's really a square, circle, or your custom.
Right. I feel like, I mean, it's circle or anything else. So pick the most popular aspect ratios or create your own. Crop a circle if you want to, kind of thing. Yeah. Because they're all. Yeah, I think that's great. You're done.
Okay. Now, do you just need this?
Yeah. So if you've hit update code and it updated, because I'm not seeing our new tags in there, so I don't think it's updated.
Oh, update code. There we go.
There we go. Yeah. So send that to me and I'll drop it in.
Cool. Done.
Great. So I actually need to bounce.
Okay.
But yeah, you send that to me. We'll plug that in. I'll upload it later today, and then again, I there's a little bit of a long tail. There's a couple more the settings that we wanted to add and stuff like that. But let's again. I'm excited to kind of let it simmer for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good to me. I'm going to put some notes about the next topic in chat, just so that they'll be there and I won't lose them.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm with
Yeah,
time
no
zones.
problem.
I'm getting lost, but
Yeah.
we could also let's schedule a call tomorrow or Friday too.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Enjoy San Francisco.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Talk later.
Later.